This is Shirley with the Spirit of Matter, and I'm actually opening up in a very jolly tone that does not manage to convey for what the context of this episode. So this is Mark Rutte. I was called to look at his chart, and let's just take a look at the perspective. So right now we are on Sol Day, calling Apollo, okay, to remove for any type of tyranny and to support our creativity, our heart, our ability to be safe when we are vulnerable, our eyesight, patrilineage, and I'm calling on Regulus to bring in honor, although it is Mars hour. And this is ascendant 6 degrees Sagittarius, with Mars in the 7th house in Gemini, applying to square Neptune. So Mercury is still 22 degrees retrograde in Leo. Given this whole calling that I have had, yesterday evening, to do Mark Rutte's chart, and I'm going to tell you more before I begin. This is midheaven ruled by this retrograde Mercury. Dismissed that what I'm saying right now will have, I did mention Mark Rutte, I did not do his chart. So perhaps now I'm elaborating through looking at his chart. He's head of NATO, he was Prime Minister of Netherlands for 20 years. This is the guy Benjamin Netanyahu basically calls on 7 October when there was a big invasion to Israel. Invasion, inside joke, whatever you want to call it. Allegedly, and he calls Mark Rutte, okay? Not Geert Wilders, which is the chart I was called to look at before the eclipse cycle on the solar eclipse of April 2024. So I knew that Geert is on the rise before he knew, okay? Basically, it's not inside information, it's just understanding that this is the work of eclipses. And so now I'm called to look at Mark Rutte's chart. He's already head of NATO. Okay, Moon is applying to Uranus, to conjunct Uranus in Taurus. And there's a beautiful trine from Venus. Okay, if Venus was in a bit of a better sign, I would do talisman right now. But because it's one of the last chances we have for this cycle to catch this Moon Uranus. But she's ruled by 22 Mercury, so I stay humble. Retrograde, so I stay humble. And I'm going to call on the 6th lunar dimension, on the, I'm going to call on middle decan of Taurus, and I'm going to call on 5th lunar dimension that Moon is applying to convey the message correctly. I'm going to call on Al-Qaeda, as Venus is slowly applying to Al-Qaeda. To prevent unnecessary mass killing. Why am I saying unnecessary? Perhaps we will discuss within the scope of this episode. Now, without further ado, let's take a look at Mark Rutte's chart. So for those of you who don't have the face to connect with the name, I will show you. No, I'm not going to show this right now. This is, yes, I keep things separate when I do. So this is Mark Rutte. I'm just going to download the image for the caption. Yes, and he was Prime Minister of Netherlands, born in 67, 57 years old. Now, without further ado, let's take a look at his chart. This is from a reputable site, A rating, so very good rating, and we have ascendant. This is Hallelujah. I'm going to take a look whole sign. I might be looking Placidus as well. Ascendant 6 degrees Virgo. Okay. Midheaven 28 degrees Taurus. So his midheaven is not on Algol, but is not too far from Algol either, where Uranus is at. Uranus is crossing the midheaven for Mark Rutte. And indeed, we see that while he had to resign from being a Prime Minister of Netherlands, he became head of NATO. That being said, if you watch Trudy from Mama versus Mafia, you will see a lovely picture of a beautiful Mark Rutte with Marc de Troyes in Brussels, around, yes, 1996 was when it came out, but I'm not sure from when was the picture. And we must take into account that the midheaven for Mark Rutte is not too far from our goal. So Uranus is bringing revolution, but also liberation for the midheaven. Okay, he got upgraded upwards. He got the boot upwards when he had to resign from being prime minister. Okay, after 7 October, very likely he knew something like this is going to come. Influx of refugee to Netherlands, right wing is coming to rule, and that would be PVV. And then he became head of NATO. NATO is the army of basically entire Europe, now including Finland, including Sweden. The word about recruitment, mandatory recruitment, is already happening. Okay, people already preparing for a mandatory service. Okay, and I want to address eclipses. Like I said, if I sleep at night and I get called do Mark Rutte's chart, I understand that it is what I think that it is, and it's not local, and it's not just for EU. And I tell you also, I missed the rising of Sirius when it was just beginning to rise, and usually we look at the colors. So I don't have the colors. Okay, I slept very, very well and very, very tight on that day, so I don't have the colors for you. Usually, I mean, resituated in Israel or Palestine, Palestina. And so for the colors, if they are not good, then it means bad news for Europe, okay, if the planet is dim. I did see Sirius yesterday. It was a bit dim. It was not bright, shining bright like, like Mars or like Venus. So it usually, as Krassia says, means bad news for Europe. So I don't want to be the bearer of doom and gloom, but if I connect the dots that, that I got to look at this chart and I know what his role is, I believe I understand where it's heading, but this is not just for Europeans. So Europeans that men in recruitment age that are not pedos, yes? Very difficult to locate the target audience. Please, make sure if you are planning to have baby, this is time. Okay, so you don't get recruited, but also get armed, get prepared for army service. We're gonna have a lunar eclipse. We're gonna have a lunar eclipse with Mars already in Cancer. Okay? And Rutte has his Mars right on my Pluto, triggering my Pluto square. So it's very interesting. 0 degree, yes, Mars, 0 degree Scorpio. My darlings, he's the right person. When they want to make a world war scorpionic, he is the right person. Okay, if they cannot recruit me, which they cannot, I try to avoid world wars. I explained to you exactly for how to avoid world wars. But he was born to different life circumstances, you understand, as any person. And again, through the Robobank it was, went through satanic ritual abuse, and that means he had to both be abused and abuse, and perhaps murder even as child assassin. So you understand that his life circumstances are less privileged than average Joe, although he's in supposedly higher position. And with this Mars, he is in correct position to be head of NATO. Okay, it's the Scorpio of Scorpios, 0 degree Scorpio Mars, with a hard aspect to Jupiter. His Jupiter is on Procyon, which I like. It's exalted Jupiter. It's in the 11th house. And his moon is in Andromeda. His moon is next to Chiron, is right now conjuncting his moon. And this moon is opposing Mars, which doesn't add to the ability to control aggression or the ability to not respond from an emotional place. Okay, hard aspects Mars and Moon is basically something is invasive to your emotional state. I'm sorry if I'm doing this right now. It's just his position in the world. I cannot not talk about this Mars because this is his strategy and aggression in the world. Okay, it's not my intention, but it's to get invasive into his life, but more to assess of who is going to be head of NATO. and what is his strategies, okay, why he's the person, but he can call on Andromeda. Chiron to Moon is now opposing, he will be opposing his Mars, but time for a person. It's very advised for Mark Rutte to call on Andromeda, and I will call on Andromeda for this episode or for these energies. With Beta per se can be problematic for him. It's not that it doesn't need Beta per se, but because of his history and what he had to do and what he has to do, I believe that beginning with Andromeda, beginning with Procyon, yes, Procyon, Jupiter Procyon, which is excellent, that can totally assist in remediating the worldview of the person. So strengthening the moon is ruled by this Mars with Andromeda, strengthening Jupiter with Procyon would be very, very appropriate and would be tender, because these are tender energies, okay? These are very tender energies, and we need a reconciliation. We need sweetening of the verdict. Absolutely necessary in this situation. Now a little bit, because I cannot do Mark Rutte without talking about the war, we're going to have lunar eclipse first. Yes, in Pisces, but Mars will already be in Cancer, I believe. Yes, I think Mars ingresses to Cancer. Let me check myself, because this changes for the whole circumstances. So let's just take a quick look at the upcoming eclipse, because this is September 18, and this one is going to be really important to see where Mars. Yes, Mars is in Cancer. So that means Mars still rules well, both on degree 7. Also the degree that we use 7 is considered Lucifer or Osiris, right? Osiris, yes. 17 Lilith. So we're gonna have Ketu with 17 Lilith, and Mars 7 degree Cancer with Rahu 7 degree Aries, with Chiron 22 degrees Aries, with Mars ruling over this. This means mandatory army service of to kill and be killed for Luna, the people. Why? For religious circumstances, but not the type of religion that is high philosophical. Why religious? Moon is in Pisces, ruled by Jupiter, but Jupiter in Gemini, it is because of expandable children, it's because of trade, it's because of technology, okay? Gemini rules these things, and Mercury is going to be strong. So unfortunately, I predict that they are going to go with the mandatory recruitment. And you have to understand that this also associates a war that the NATO soldiers might be fighting not only on European land. It is what you think that it is. It's exactly what you think that it is. This is why I was called to look at Mark Rutte's chart, okay, and yesterday. Even though, okay, in my country, then we have extensive war in the north, so people would say that I should be diverted by my own location. No, because here we have something that's happening in all of the world and all of Europe, and it's not just Europe, it's the soldiers to mandatory recruitment. And I know that right-wing leaders have been trying to break apart the European Union. We are having a change in relation between states. Remember when I said a change in relation between states in 2020? And I didn't know what I was talking about, because I was trying to heal myself. And I was thinking physically about states. So yes, it's not a big deal to predict the world war. It has been planned for the only one who saw things. If you would listen to the people that you deem as crazy and would go for housing first and open dialogue, then you would know there is a world war. But you didn't listen. And now all your healthy men are supposed to be going to die in battle. And this is crazy. Okay, but unfortunately we are still in these times. So this is for this lunar eclipse. I wasn't predicting lunar eclipse to mean a lot in these terms, because we usually think about it in your personal life, it's more emotional and so on. It's right on my ascendant, but in your but for mundane, moon is the people, and lunar eclipses affected the people. And here with Rahu in Aries, this is mandatory army service of the people, and it can yes, people fighting people. This is armies fighting armies here. The religion here is more to do with expandable children. And Jupiter Gemini, why is there war with Jupiter in Gemini? Without a doubt, expandable children. Okay, he didn't catch it with the child assassins. He didn't catch it with the robber bank. He didn't catch it with Bank of America. You cry Jews, Jews, Jews instead of talking about satanic ritual abuse of children. That today is Jews, but yesterday was Inuit. And now we are sitting here in this place. Jupiter Gemini is very much functional religion. Okay, I have my lot of faith in or belief or worldview in 12 degrees Gemini, and my worldview is so. What worldview serves me? If I am healthy and feeling good, it means that I view the world correctly. If not healthy, what needs to change? So I shift and sort what my beliefs are, and this is how I came to do astrology and even astrological magic, okay, and spirit of matter. So this is very functional religion. That's the pro. The pro, this is good time, optimal time for our religions to get more functional, to get more up to speed. What serves me, what doesn't serve me? And from this point of view, you can see that if you have expandable children, you will have expandable people and expandable leaders. Now let's go back to Manir Rutte. So, ascendant ruled by Mercury, which already tells me I will be talking about him again. It's not the first conversation. Mercury is retrograde. Now his Mercury is in Pisces. Now Pisces Mercury, that tells me this person is medium, is channeler, and very likely have been a part of why he was targeted. I don't know about the bloodline or the blood type, but a part of why he was targeted is simply because his psychic abilities. He has stellium in Pisces with Saturn on my ascendant. Don't kill me. It's my malefic out of sect. And if you do, make it quick and no suffering. And Chiron, bringing Chiron to my ascendant. Well, what can I say? I love you. That was me. Venus 18 degrees. Yes, Venus 18 degrees. I won't say that because this is really dark joke and it won't be correctly perceived with Mercury Leo. Venus is on 18 degrees Pisces and a Mercury Pisces. Mercury Pisces, we think of Mercury Pisces in detriment. That being said, Mercury Pisces is not functioning like the Mercury Virgo, which is very eloquent. It has the right words, the insidious jokes, the everything of it. It is working differently. It is, however, not to be underestimated, because this is the Mercury where your thought process, he could see a vision, a dream, he could see a blending of colors, and through this blending of colors, he would know where to go to this color, go to that color, okay? So it was very likely captured for his psychic abilities as well as his Martian qualities, okay? Mars Scorpio to the Scorpio, this is a very, it's a core scorpionic Mars, okay? And he's got it to my Pluto, so when my Pluto square. So yes, oh, whatever. This is for, and Chiron in Pisces, this also means that the lunar eclipse is going to be on his Chiron and Saturn. He still has Sun below the horizon, okay? Sun below the horizon, Sun below the ascendant means that this Saturn, just like for me, for him, is malefic out of sect, okay? And so it's not a 22 Saturn, it's a 28 Saturn, okay? So it's not a poisonous degree. Venus is on toxic degree. But when it comes to, this stellium in Pisces is going to be felt, it's in his seventh house. Seventh house for leader is not just your wife or your enemies, it's also, if you are head of NATO, what other international forces you have partnership with. Also banking forces, okay, ascendant ruled by Virgo, banking forces. All of these things become very, very relevant. So this is going to be a time where, unlike me, the opposite ascendant, he's going to focus on these partnerships and building partnerships. But with Saturn can be also ending partnerships. And so that pertains not just to personal life, which is less our business, but to whichever, who is his partner when he's head of NATO. So who is he partnering up with? Okay, those partnership with Pisces can be leaked, can be exposed. Okay, Pisces is Pisces. Pisces will Pisces. He also has Neptune to his Saturn. I would really, if I could have this person online for a conversation, I would really ask him what is Saturn Neptune like, because I think that this man is of the people that predict for us, people who are 57, around 57, yes, 56. Right now, you are the people that predict for us what the Saturn Neptune is going to be dealing with. Not exactly, it will happen in Aries, but you are the ones who are having the Saturn Neptune. Saturn Neptune is dissolution of structure, and Manir Rutte got a very pyramidal structure, okay, NATO army, while in fact this NATO is going to be dissolved. Okay, this is very appropriate to give him head of something that is global, because this is the man who will be carrying the timestamp of dissolving the global structure. Also, these partners, whoever partners with this guy, okay, it's too late now. He's already head of NATO. You already did what you did. It's already eclipse times, okay? It's too late. But and I was asking myself, as to this leader, that leader, why not Rutte? And I said, I know, I will get to Rutte. I will get to Rutte. When it's time, I will get to Rutte. And I got yesterday the calling do Rutte chart. And now this entire eclipse is ruled by Jupiter, that is in Procyon. That tells me that if Mark Rutte works with Procyon, Procyon is a noble. Procyon is the JFK planet, okay? It's the planet, not that I'm wishing for him to be unalived, God forbid, no, but this is the planet that can avoid World War. He will pay for his life with his life, yes, but it's preferred for him to go down like this than to go down like Hitler, because he's been put in position, okay? This is the position. It's not Eisenhower, it's NATO. You're European. Americans still want to hold their pride, okay? And that's important, to put yourself in the right position with these things. Europe is not considered the land of the free, and is not considered, nor is it considered Great Britain, okay? Europe mostly known for colonialism, rape, torture, expandable children, satirically enough, gentlemen, but it's true. But with the same time, what we know Europe, oh yeah, the Nazis, okay? And the ideas that were breathing through this Nazi, the bloodline segregation, even though everybody was doing that. Everybody was doing that, but Europe, we know more. Okay, just like right now, we know Zionists more were doing that, because you cannot hide what were done in land of Israel, even to Israelis, okay? It's not even just to say this minority, that minority, Ashkenazi Jews, okay? What they do to each other. But they do it on the land of Europe mainly. So there's a lot to it. Definitely Procyon here is highly important to work with to sweeten the verdict. There is decentralization of whatever he partners up with, okay? And I'm not talking about his personal life. Here is not my business, his personal life. I'm talking about the war. So I'm talking about diplomacy. And you understand, head of NATO is not a diplomatic We call on NATO when diplomatic solution have ceased, and this is going to be the dissolution of NATO. Okay, if this man is head of NATO, is having Neptune, Saturn, this is the dissolution of NATO. If he would stay head of Netherlands, would be the dissolution of Netherlands, but it's too small. Neptune is giant. That's why Neptune takes him there, so that he can dissolve for this structure. It's also dissolution of Europe, European Union. And this Procyon is sweetening, is for good reason that I did not see Procyon rising, because I would know again that is not good news for Europe. So yes, unfortunately, very likely the dissolution is bloody. And the dissolution is for European Union, for NATO forces, and NATO will fight not only on the land of Europe. Pisces is definitely for, of course, it is Palestine, okay, for more like the Gaza region than the Israeli region. They're Pisces, they're the Pisces Virgo axis, okay? And he has a stellium in Pisces. Okay, so it can be of enmity or of partnership. But at any rate, there's a sweetening of the verdict, there's a dissolution. You understand he was prime minister when Benjamin Netanyahu calls him 7 October. What did we do after the invasion? We kaput al gol, Gaza. Kaput al gol, Gaza. Yes, it's not going to help Israel because this is human sacrifice. And we sacrificed the people that were raped and murdered in Israel. Okay, it's not good. When you do such thing for human sacrifice, not good. Not going to assist you. Not going to get what you want. Our goal is the other way around. You have to stand for these people. Stand for their rights. Protect their rights. Okay. And this is his midheaven is still very close to our goal. With Uranus now, that could liberate him if he tends to expandable children. I suspect that, it's structurally, okay, but I say with all respect to Mani Rutte, structurally it's impossible to be in such position where he's at without being extorted by Brussels-like, Marc Dutroux-like type of rings. Is impossible, okay? And so this is not me vindicating or alleging or anything like that. It's not, yes, that being said, if it's not the case, and if he managed to get to this position would not the case, that would be the most interesting thing to tell the world. How did you manage to do that without being a part of these extorted pedo rings? Because most of them can't. And this is a question that the people need to ask before we go, in Hebrew we say to the vacuum, okay, before we go and recruit people for the army. Okay, before you go to war, you should ask, how is possible for you to be in your position without being part of pedo rings? Tell us. Because we would need politicians, we would need public figures, we would need influencers, musicians, satirists, we would need journalists, we would need all that. How is it possible to do that without being liable to extortion? Tell us your win, tell us your car, tell us your way. And it's also important to keep in mind that he was raised in those death camps of the Rabobank, together with Wilders, together with all politicians, and had to be a member of whatever secret society. And that means that as child, he would be child assassin, and he would be, I'm not going to get into detail with that, but testimonial of a person that survived this. I'm not going to direct too much attention to that because this person still needs to live. But it's not me having, it's out there on the web and you see it. So it's so important to mention the context, and it's important and it's very graceful for the survivor that's basically been satanically ritual abused, to be saying, okay, for these people, they also went through abuse, the people that abused me, meaning Wilders and Rutte. So, it's those kind of testimonials that have the grace, even though a person been through so much, to put grace to the people that abused him, with all the anger, and tell the truth, because if we are to tend to this topic, and the war is on expendable children. This is how the people are extorted, and this is what makes them, okay, JFK knew very well, exposed for secret societies, he gets shot, okay, he took the bullet, very, very clear, okay, very clear. So for Mani Rutte, it's very likely that if he's considering such act, I do not see placement that could tell me he's considering such act in his chart. Okay, if I'll be honest with you, he's not seeming to consider to do a JFK. Okay, but very likely he understands. Okay, has deep intuition, deep world of dreams. Very likely understands where he's going. He has Saturn opposing Uranus and Pluto, and Chiron opposing Uranus and Pluto. Pluto-Uranus conjunction in his first house in Virgo, kind of opposing my ascendant. So those are hard aspects. Those are, for Mani Rutte, crucially important to get synastry with people that have Pluto, either Cancer, the Pluto Cancer. So you should check if people like Feynman could be of good something to carry with him, or Scorpio, the Pluto Scorpio. Okay, the Uranus Scorpio, I have to not, yes, the Uranus Scorpio late phase, I have to say I don't like it. It's the rape and murder Uranus. It's not a Uranus that Uranus cannot handle Scorpio. I don't like for this. I would prefer him to get the Pluto end of phase Capricorn. Okay, for Uranus, and this is the people that feel earthquakes, that are good with giving him remediation for this extremely hard aspect that he has. So that would be younger people. Not for to make any intimate connections, but for these people, having synastry, or for these people with the Uranus in Capricorn, and for the time where Pluto was at the end of Capricorn. Okay, Pluto is going to go right now to the end of Capricorn. He should do talisman for this. He should do something that helps to remediate for this aspect, because it's a very difficult aspect. It's a crisis of structure aspect. I know that, yes, he's approaching his second Saturn return. So if I think for how to remediate this, then when you must have some people in your life that bring in, yes, that bring in the end of Uranus in the end of Capricorn, okay? Or Uranus at the end of Cancer. I prefer Capricorn. Uranus is good with Capricorn because Uranus feels earthquakes. It feels the soil, it feels the mountains. You need that. And for the time where Pluto was at the end of Capricorn. This was good time for Rutte. It was okay, but it must remediate for this. Must remediate for this upon Saturn's second Saturn return. Second Saturn return is, yes, if you can go back to when he was in his 27, 28, that would be the years. And for him, he could even felt it 26. And so very volatile time, not simple. So yes, he's been given, you see, upon his second Saturn return, becoming head of NATO, being given very high position, but is triggering for this aspect again. Okay, and Neptune there opposing Pluto, opposing Uranus. This means that what you rebel, you try to rebel the fog. Okay, Yes, and in general, seventh house Pisces. We are pretty slippery fishes, but here you are trying to rebel the fog, and Neptune calls you to surrender for these things. Surrender does not mean for Rutte, surrendering means what for Hitler was surrendering. Hitler got his cyanide because he did Holocaust for the whole world. Okay, just so we're straight on these things. Okay, this all type of surrender, but yes, I can see surrendering is called for him, because when he tried to find his power, okay, here with this crisis, the triggers the inner Corvan out. Okay, this the Saturn Pluto opposition, the difficult one. So this is, yes, creating problem. He does have this remediation from Jupiter and Procyon. And with Procyon, I believe when he calls to Procyon to sweeten the verdict, he will get for these corrections for his Uranus, his Saturn, his Pluto, must correct for this, because this Uranus, then you see, if he has Uranus in Capricorn, a chart with him, that Uranus will oppose his Jupiter on Procyon. This is problem. So I guess it's better for him to work through Procyon, but it's very likely that he's going to meet such Pluto and Uranus. If he does meet, it's preferred, even still preferred from Capricorn, because that would remedify the internal complex the Jupiter rules in a way that's rebellious towards Procyon. But if he does it on a Scorpio level, Pluto is great in Scorpio, but the Pluto-Neptune conjunction, I don't dislike this. Okay, I had this with deceased Peter the Vries, but that would bring me dissolving of the fear from Pluto towards my Pluto square and starting to work with it with Pluto talismans. Okay, it's very important for me. But what I don't like for this Uranus Neptune is that I just don't like for this Uranus Neptune. It can radicalify him, and that's a remediation that's more towards Hitler and not necessarily towards Procyon. Still, if he goes for the remediation from the end of Capricorn, he's challenging Procyon. So it's a very difficult position for him to be. Rahu in 10 degrees Taurus, so he's already had the Rahu return. He had the Rahu return during COVID, okay, which basically prepared for him. He complied with COVID, complied with all these lockdowns, and so on. Thanks to his compliance, I had a shelter, but okay. But this is because we, the people, did not do enough for the people who escape violence. Okay, we did not require enough for the people who escape violence, and so they have to comply. And now we see the situation where he already is head of NATO. The Lilith eclipses were advancing him towards his position that he became, okay, after the Aries solar eclipse, became head of NATO. And so, yes, it was a very sweetening of the fact, a different thing in his life, because he basically lost to Wilders' party, okay, even though it was not big enough, but was lost to Wilders' party. But the sweetening of the verdict is that he became head of NATO. Okay, so he is the type of guy that get the boot upstairs. But you have to still be aware that upstairs, not, to cross over, which is okay. We all have expiration date. So do I. However, this is a person that will rise and rise. And here his job is actually to dissolve certain structure. Okay, he kind of dissolved the Netherlands. So. And became it, because if it's small, Neptune is going to make it more big. But if it's big, it's going to dissolve it. And now they are doing Rutte to try to get to globalist, because he will dissolve NATO and he will dissolve Europe. But then this is the guy to get the boot upstairs. So either he's going to be head of some globalist, okay, world which is going to put him in face with his goal thingy. Okay? And this is then Hitler. Yes, because and consequently we may have will and consent afterwards. We may have freedom from financial violence afterwards. After 2 world wars we had women with bank account and so on, but within the 2 world wars it was not nice, not for men, not for women. So either the plan to make him a head of such globalist, okay, a head of the world, or such army forces, or such this, or so that, because this is the guy that gets the boot upstairs. I'm also such person, so I can recognize immediately that that's what happened here. And Neptune will not stay with his 7th house forever. It would go to Aries, which is his 8th house. And so if 8th house Aries, Neptune really is surrendering your life completely, is both becoming one with one thing, with something, or with someone, but also is complete surrender. And it doesn't mean that there are no, okay, it brings miracles, it brings magical experiences, it brings occultistic experiences, but it's not impossible that, okay, we have to understand that on the pathway to these things, and it's not something he's not used to, because he's been in Expandable Children project since birth, and we know that those who practice Expandable Children practice Expandable people and Expandable leaders. I like this Procyon with Jupiter. I really like this Procyon with Jupiter. I wasn't expecting to see a Procyonic persona here, but this Procyon is also representing for his partner, which is something he has to remember, because Procyon and Jupiter is not the benefic of sect for him. Jupiter and his Rutte is ruling partner. So he's dealing with someone very Procyonic. Look, okay? And he is astrologer 1st house. Astrology is Uranus 1st house. Uranus is astrology. Let's view this from Placidus, so I can be more accurate about the Uranus part. I can tell you more, because this will tell you, yes, still 1st house. So this would mean that astrologers would be prediction for his life path. And in this case, I'm astrologer who is ascendant Pisces. I'm ruled by Jupiter. And for him, the Jupiter is very Procyonic. And I try to do what? Avoid World War. Yes, to tell you it's about Expandable Children. Yes, to tell you for all the things, all the bad things, all the criticism you don't want to hear, because if you correct for that, you avoid World War. And if you don't, it's bloody and you reincarnate. Okay? We are ushering our way to golden ages. Nature corrects for itself. I'm not too worried about this. But my role in this is Jupiterian. And here for the Jupiter in his life, the astrology in his life is for his life path matters, for his persona, for what will be with him. And I tell you, his partner is very Procyonic. And he has a stellium in the 7th. Now, that can make of him very Procyonic. And his advice, because this would be remedying of this hard aspect between Pluto and Saturn. Okay? But because of Neptune, he can devalue it, especially me, because I have ascendant right between his Chiron and his Saturn. If he hears this, he can devalue me. He can say, oh, what she speaks, what does she know, what is she this, what is she that? No. It's very clear that I am this Jupiter. Okay? And whoever is partner or enemy is basically having for the qualities of this Jupiter. All of these qualities within the Pisces, okay? They can restrict him, they can be swiped, swipe the rug beneath his feet. They can bring karma to him, they can bring wounding to him, they can be toxic, okay? Especially women. Like toxins, toxicity, okay, even poisonous, yes, but they also bring in psychic abilities, and communication can be elusive here, because they communicate about astrology, and this is also an Neptunian endeavor, but they're all ruled by this Jupiter, and Jupiter is with Procyon. Procyon is to get favors, to sweeten the verdict, to have reconciliation. This is the great denuclearifier. And Jupiter's Procyon, abolish expandable children, dissolve for this practice of expandable children through all the practices, okay, through all the world. This would be correct if he is taken for his seventh house qualities, embracing for his seventh house qualities, and taking on this Jupiter in his life. Then he is doing remediation, and he can ask for Procyon of how to do it and how to complete for that. It's also important to say that his partners and enemies are very graceful. Okay? They bring him karma, but they're very graceful, very compassionate with him. Okay? And mind you, if I'm exactly these people. Okay, if I speak and I know whom I'm speaking with, and I know for what he had to do in his life, and I know for what he did to the people in my country, and I know for what the people in my country did for this to happen. Okay, for the way they treat women, for the way they treat children, for the way they didn't stand up for the homeless. Not most of the people that got hurt, they were the human sacrifice. But as unit society unit of analysis, okay, then this is how this was allowed to happen to this Volken, okay, to this Am, okay, and I know this, but it's important for him to adopt Procyon, because this is going to be necessary. This is going to be necessary if he goes towards the Hitler Reich. Okay, and Adolf Hitler, he tried to arrest for Baron Rothschild, okay, but he was also complying with the bloodline segregation and so on and so forth, and many things that still perpetuated war. Okay, that was the Mein Kampf, but it's also he basically complied with the occult. And not the occult that is in favor of humanity, but the archaic occult that practice human sacrifice. And that's why he got cyanide. So we have to be honest here. He got cyanide for him, his dog, and his wife or mistress, Eva Braun. So he was thinking also about his beloved, that situation, okay? Better to die like this, especially for when the doctor was Dr. Mengele, okay? So, and WHO, yes. And this is important because Venus brings poison. And I'm a female astrologer and I talk about poison, okay? He must to have poison that he can die himself. Not that I'm advising someone of how to be Hitler, yes? But please, must accommodate for this Procyon, because Beta Persei on a mid-heaven is not pretty and is ruled by a toxin Venus. So that would mean toxins. Yes, so this Venus also ruling Libra, which is his second house. It would mean medical warfare. So if we would be, yes, you understand, this is medical warfare. But still, this Venus is ruled by Procyon. So even if his death will be graceful, and this is because he was born to expandable children. We, the people, need to understand this. Because the leaders were born to these death camps like Holocaust. Okay? And they did not have way out because all their doctors, they don't know what's energy. Okay? But my psychologist was also MK Ultra. Also, he did not have a way out. His job was, if somebody comes to you, especially for something to do with childhood, you keep him unable to do anything. And so he grew up for this situation that he had to be abused, and very likely still. All of them. We have to understand this. That's why they keep them perpetuating this. And if he wants to go to any doctor, it's Dr. Mengele. This man is now subscribed to do for coming of globalization. If we don't tend to expandable children, he has no way out. No way out alive. These people, they don't have the ability to walk free, to this, to that. They don't have this. If he wants his cyanide, he needs to comply. Okay? It's also in very deep pain. I say this is also important. We are at the time where Pluto is going to go to Aquarius, and we know what happened. It was the French Revolution. We know what happened to those who were the leaders back then. In some ways, it's more humane than what the cult would do. And so he knows these things, okay? He knows what I tell you. He doesn't need me. He knows more than me, for sure. He knows more than me, for sure, okay? He's a very empathic man, and he had to be, unfortunately, for the exact opposite of empathic. You know what this means. I'm not going to... And if it takes the Procyon, very, very important to turn to Procyon. Not just to Sirius, to Procyon, particularly to Procyon. If I had one gift to this man, it's Procyon talisman. Must work with Procyon. Because this Procyon can bring you miracles. And also, I would be even, definitely Andromeda, his moon and so on, but I would be even courageous to begin to turn to Beta per se and say and ask, please help me. Because this is situation where he's been put in such situation where they're trying to make for very unfavorable circumstances for his entire life and his death. And very important, okay, to pray that he finds a way to alleviate this, to remediate this, and to work favorably with Beta per se. This would also avoid many, many, many things in the entire world that there is no reason that they should be. But we the people must work with Procyon, with Andromeda, and with Beta per se as well, because we are the people. We are the people, okay? It's we the people. And when 7th October happened, I worked with Andromeda, I worked with Procyon, I worked with Beta per se, with Al-Qaeda, every single day. And this is something of the sort is really, really must for humanity, because these things are allowed because whenever we had, let's say, the Brussels, but before the Brussels, the Deming, 1973, you know it as the oil crisis. No oil crisis. They know where the oil is, and then they say, we found out, we discovered. When they tell you we discovered, it's after they planned for 20 years up to be with the eclipses and everything, what they're going to do where. And they extort to do this with the children. And if every one of us is tending to this, and we have good gate of Pluto trine in Sedna to tend to this from the Inuit, a gate that has not been here for 12 millennia in Gemini, the 0 degree Gemini, the 0 degree Pluto. That is gate that can eliminate for things we've been suffering from for 12 millennia. There can also be Ice Age. I tell you this, there can also be Ice Age. Or too warm to stay. Because if all humanity doesn't tend to this right now, we go extinct. We don't go superhuman. If you kill off masculinity, you kill femininity. If you kill off femininity, you kill masculinity. True to your coffee, true to your water, true to your genitals, true to your babies. You know what they did? Why they did Hiroshima and Nagasaki? I'm sure Rutte would agree with me, because he knows what these cults are doing. They put Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but they would change it for the coin, okay? Backing off the gold standard. Now this is why I can say, oh well, I will not pay today, I will pay tomorrow. I have credit, right? This is how a lot of people could buy houses, because they had mortgage. A lot of people could buy land because they had mortgage. Okay, it's JP Morgan also. JP Morgan is not just a vile animal. JP Morgan is also how people could be owners. It's how is funded capitalism. What is motives? What is this? What is that? Yes, Alice. But you have to understand. He did not invent human trafficking, nor child infanticide, and so on, nor rape. And so, when that time with the backing off the gold standard, which is also good for the gold miners, children murdered, raped on the regular, for your money. Money is energy, Tom Jacobs. Then you get married and your 8th house is filled with betrayal, trauma. Why is your bed filled with betrayal? Okay. Should be filled with pineapple and lychee and, fluids to garden your bay leaf trees. Okay, so you can filter the water and you have good soil. Then when you're nervous, you dance on the soil. You're not nervous anymore. You don't want to fight with anybody. When I did the Igbo war dance, I said, I don't want to fight with anybody. Okay? It's natural. But it's because for the gold, they were mining it with dead children and raped children and murdered people all around. It's bloody gold. The gold essentially should be in the mountains. It brings us to the minerals that keep us healthy and good energy. Maybe some for jewels and stuff, but this is it. And then what happened? They changed for this entire world war all over for this coinage. And then they could give women right to vote, they could give this, they could give that, so to hush this. But if we would accommodate for children and for women, we would not have world war. What Uranus would do? What Uranus does? Rejuvenates the forests. New technology I'm very lucky because my technology for Uranus Taurus was the half moons that create from desert, they create forests. So make it easier for me to garden. That's Uranus and Taurus for you. We could do that on Mars, on Venus. That's Uranus and Taurus for you. But we keep fighting each other. Take down men, take down women, take down LGBTQ, take down this, take down that. No, you have your rights, but you have to go to the doctor. Or you have to pay dividends at the banker because your husband rapes you, so you want to buy something. It's good money, good for business. No, it's not. So now they're having another change of currency. Same Bank of America that owns Bitcoin. Julian Assange was flying Bombardier, 500,000 was it pounds, paid by Bitcoin. Who owns Bitcoin? Bank of America. This I cannot blame on the Robobank. Robobank says we don't want this man, we don't want this man. Then Bank of America funds Rockefeller. Or Rockefeller funds for WikiLeaks. Rothschild, you say Rothschild founded Israel, founded Israel. But they said Israel is going to be like Switzerland. But then they said no, because there's so many swamps, it's going to be like Netherlands. So every time Israel makes a move, she calls the Netherlands, and then the Israeli commander sits in The Hague. Not the Dutch ones. And everybody thinking, oh, NATO is just, they have water. Somebody threw a broken water gun. I said, maybe it's working. It's not working. They work out with pew-pew. They know how to fight. But you're busy. Israel, Israel, Israel. Such small country. And you said, no, the Jews, the Jews. What Jews? The pork eating people in Thailand? All Israelis in the 7 October, embarking, all Israelis in Thailand. You wouldn't find one Israeli in Israel. And if you would, it's the poor people didn't have money to go to Thailand. For those that didn't, they already are in Europe. You don't need to work hard. They are in Europe since the 90s, where you could do tax evasion and get housing. You ask me, Shirley, why you're not in Europe? Because my mother is a patriot and she gave up her passport and I had to live there. We have no money to live there until we get this, because we're not human traffickers. That's why, but I love the sun. Anyway. What is going right now in Netherlands? I don't know where to be. I heard they were kicking out the Moroccan children. And of course, it's people are quick to, resist this. And I said to myself, well, this Moroccan child, if he stays in Netherlands, he could be expandable child with the snuff film of the Supreme Court judges and whatnot. If he goes out of Netherlands, then he goes to what will be of that child. We have to tend to expandable children in Europe and in Israel, but Israel, don't get me on Israel in that topic. Yes, great son, warm people, very generous, but then just like very kind people, they would, if you're in trouble, yes, let's call the welfare. No, the welfare is the kidnappers of the children. And this is worldwide. Anything more I have to say? Well, let's talk about his son, because his son is right next to Dana Balgadi. Okay? 25 degrees Aquarius, still in orb to meet Dana Balgadi. There's nothing more to say, okay? If I take a look at his Jupiter and I take a look at his sun, I take a look at the person, and I say, if this person with midheaven Algol, with Sun on Dana Balgadi, with Jupiter on Procyon, is doing such horrid, is complying with such horrid things to humanity, then imagine for what the situation would be like if not for him. Okay? The rabbit hole is deep. I see this chart. It don't look like a child of no like a chart of no when you think about the tyrannical people or this or that or this psychopath people or this they can make of everybody like that. They put a hell of a lot of energy and shockers into people to get them to be like that. MK Ultra is not the only one. But when I look at this chart, what is Dana Balgadi? You know what you use? Sphere and Sundry has Dana Balgadi, also Christopher Warnock, for when you want to be keep your possessions and wealth redistribution. Okay? When I was in Netherlands, Dana Balgadi showed me where to steal from and why to steal from there and not from there. I needed to steal food to stay alive. So that's what it showed. I was like, but I'm working with Dana Balgadi. Why am I being shown where to steal? Because you need to eat. You need warm gloves. You need to eat. Yes? So you must get ready because what is coming, and I was shown for what is coming in Europe before the war in Ukraine, but also for 2030. I have to admit, I'm not such a bright star. I didn't get what I was shown. Okay? Because there are all kinds of people that are working within this, and I didn't know for what is in my favor, not in my favor. And there were people that were not in my favor trying to get all, well, to put me in the Nova, to put me here, to put me there. So yes, I was MK Ultra. It's a very simply put. Let's make channel an experiment. When Saturn is in my 12th, there were good things around this, definitely. seeing what is coming, absolutely. But also, yes, those type of experiments. He has Sun. Not only that, Rutte has Sun in 6th house. This is a leader that serves humanity, in partnership with other. But this other is ruled by Jupiter Procyon. Okay? I look at this chart and I say, thanks God, he is head of NATO. Who knows what will be if not? Who knows what they wanted to do with Israel if not for Rutte? It's another thing to consider that I did not have in mind. Who knows what wars they would do? It can be the situation that Israel was like, yes, go ahead, do whatever you have to ruin, you do whatever that. And he was like, okay, let's mitigate this a little bit. When I see this chart, I see a chart of person that is of procyonic nature, benevolent nature, and his benevolent doesn't always serve him because this Jupiter is not benefic of sect. It's Venus is, and she's in Jupiter sign. Okay, it's not bad, but it's, yes, it's like he's the person that can be even too kind for his own good. I was not expecting this. Meet heaven along goal. This is person that have seen what it's like when you don't work well with a goal. And which is Jupiter Cancer. Jupiter in Cancer is exalted. Okay, it's not like the doctor professor that I had in academia that had Sun on Algol, and even if she was not on minima because of the cults or whatever, and I don't judge for the circumstances, but let's say it's not about learning lesson, it's about for change of behavior was not so possible. I don't know if Algol was minima or not in the life of Rutte. I wouldn't be surprised if she was, but this is yes, this is a person that, for even the ruler of midheaven ruled by this Jupiter in Procyon in the 11th house, wants to be in favor of humanity. Okay, if you would give me this chart and you would say who you prefer to be leader for this person and other person, say this person is sometimes too kind for his own good. And Moon and the ruler of this Jupiter on Andromeda with hard aspect to Mars, but on Andromeda, this is person, the nature of the person. If you would grow this person not in a concentration camp, we had to murder, rape, torture, electrocute, and go through these things as child, as adult, as politician, as but now, if you would grow him outside for this place, completely, this is a person whose only vice is too kind for his own good. That per se can perhaps help him stand for his own right, stand for his own boundaries. And maybe it's good for him to turn to better per se for this. And when I look what Mark Rutte, where was Mark Rutte? What happened? Where is he now? What's happening? I'm like, oh my God. He complied with COVID, complied with lockdowns, complied with 7th October, complied with complete destruction of Gaza. I know Wilders is like, yes, but Rutte was, Rutte had to sign, okay? Wilders get to say good riddance, but it's Rutte that was there. And for this, I see a person too kind for his own good. Now he's getting second Saturn return. I was not expecting this. I was not expecting this, okay? And he's in his 50s, he's after his Chiron maturation, so got to heal himself. whatever this Chiron thing was there, he'd already healing in that or working with that in a way that is evolved. Pluto has evolved more towards this Saturn, or more towards this Chiron, is the wounded healer, and this opposition with Uranus. This man can give us the healing from expandable children. Like this person, if I could get him on a talk and he could actually speak. Because this person knows with Chiron, Uranus, even if hard aspect, the Pluto-Uranus was the electrocution of what they did to the children and the jail experiment. The Chiron here is wounded healer. And this person knows how to heal from these things, to deprogram. And you see this beautiful sextile here to Neptune. Neptune in Scorpio. But this is person that is great potential here. And all of this stellium is so remediated by this beautiful trine to Jupiter. So, and the sun sextiles moon. So then Abelged is protecting him from even his act of aggression. This tells me that this Mark Rutte, because I have to tell you the truth, before I saw this chart, I said, Geert Wilders has to wear a t-shirt that says, Bibi called Rutte, not me. He's behaving the opposite, but but that says this, because I said to myself, people are going to remember what name and who was when Bibi called for starting the war. And the war, you say, is inside job, then it means the inside job was for to do what's done to Gaza. So that was Rutte, okay? And now when I see this chart, when I look at this chart, and I got the calling, look at Rutte's chart, and I tell you I'm going to talk about him again because this is Mercury retrograde. Finally got the energy. This is chart of person that is looking like he's the great devil because he's complying with things that are inhumane, but we don't even get what the tip of the iceberg of what is planned, and he's trying to remediate that. Is trying to mitigate, to sweeten the verdict that we now have, and the verdict is globalist world war. For to sweeten the verdict. And even for his Mars, yes, his Mars squares this Jupiter, so his big actions and so on. It's the guy, they get the boots upstairs, but this Mars is still trining, loosely trining his sun, and the sun sextiles the moon. So it's remediating of this moon that this Mars rules. Okay, it's still having Mars in front of your moon is, yes, a lot of Andromeda. A lot of Andromeda here could be useful. Moon, right now he has Aries conjuncting his moon. So because I work with Andromeda, it's reconciling that which seems that we cannot reconcile. I tell you, this chart, this person, whatever we see him doing, whatever we see him complying, is because he tries to mitigate for what is actually planned for humanity. Remember 7th October? That was Rutte. That was after Rutte mitigation. And if not only that, I say he's too kind for his own good. His own good is to remediate. He has meet heaven on a goal. He has son on the Nabalgedi. He gets in trouble. And even still, he's too good for, it's like, it's not only that this is your interest, you're serving your interest, you're even serving for beyond your interest. Okay, even kinder for his own good. Then you can just imagine for what is planned for humanity. When you see this chart, and when you see he takes for this position to try to remediate, to reconcile. I was not expecting this. The eclipses, that the Aries eclipses, and we have another one. We're gonna have eclipse on his second house. Rahu still going to be in his 8th, both for the lunar eclipse, for solar eclipse. Is important to protect, because Andromeda is good for reconciliation, for protection, for Aries. Is fated events, yes. He's not eclipse. Oh, he can be eclipse child? No, he's not eclipse child. Well, Andromeda and Procyon is all I can say for this. It's targeting 8th house. Yes, from Aries. Well, 8th house eclipse is not easy. Okay, this is eclipses that, yes, I said the 22 Chiron is on his moon. Moon 23 degrees Aries. Chiron's already been there, so it's the same thing. So it's the same thing that came up then. Something of that sort is coming up now. Yes, also for builders. You have to ask yourself who is moon, what is moon, but this is also the people. Okay, because it's leader, it's also the people, or the soldiers. He's not ruled by Mars, okay, but it is house that can bring all types of events that can be. Also, you need more than one signification, but this is something that's possible. And then Rahu will be with the 7th house, so it's going to be forming new partnership, ending partnerships on international level. Again, it's not given a personal delineation here. So he'll definitely be doing stuff. My prediction is not that he's going to die with these eclipses, but it's actually that he's going to be doing stuff. I do believe that any protection he does to talismanically or energetically from assassinations on the regular is going to be extra relevant with Chiron 22, which just makes sense. And also if he has brother or something like this, or the soldiers, very important to protect, and must comply with, yes, with the Nabalgadi, with Andromeda. Okay. If it's related to the soldiers that he will be commander of, then the soldiers must not do kidnapping, torture. If they have to do kidnapping, must not do torture, definitely not rape. And it's difficult because this is a very scorpionic direct Mars, 0 degree Scorpio, so this core scorpionic, and you'd have to see where the soldiers are, not necessarily where Rutte is. Andromeda can be good for that. Andromeda is liberation from kidnapping, liberation from torture. Any action, because he's leader, any action for his army that are going to be towards torture, towards kidnapping. If kidnapping must be, then must not be torture. If killing must be, then must not be torture. Very important for working with Andromeda, because Andromeda is reconciliation. Okay, also pertains to his own mortality. Not something he's not aware of. Again, with this Mercury, very likely aware of. But must mitigate these things. Must make sure this is not done. I don't know how from his position he can make sure it's not done. because and very likely, even of what we saw the human sacrifice in Israel, he very likely, yes, he's not a stupid person, very likely mitigated that. These people, they grow from age 0, memento mori, to think of your death, and to understand, for you see how the violence works from very young age. So for you understand this, yes, as a 22 Mars Scorpio retrograde, I understand that if to kill, only with the most human and dignified way, and only when necessary. And unfortunately, I've dealt with Saturn 22, and strong Saturn in Aquarius, that was not mitigating for torture. As far as I can tell, it was not mitigating. Okay, maybe he wanted, maybe he set intention. I don't know what's inside the soul of person, but it's something that is very difficult, and made it very difficult for me to defend myself in front of him, because he pushed to situations that were prolonging something that shouldn't have been suffering in this way. It was not my intention for him to suffer. I only needed to heal, never intended to do any unnecessary harm, but I can see how that can create for such cows. Here in this chart, what is good is this Andromeda and is this Jupiter, that also, but this Mars is in his home sign and is square in that Jupiter, so and a lot is invested so that the people would lose track of their own Mars. He's a grown man, but we also must take into account that he never had childhood. Like all of this, it's not about getting into his psyche, not at all. It's just there's expandable children, and so for this Mars never got to rest enough for to be exerting Mars in correct way. And Mars in 0 Scorpio is essentially a very, very deep Mars. It is everything we say of Scorpio, okay, is psychological in spirit and in matter, and can attack for, yes, it's why it survived, but it's also important that this Mars never got to mature in settings that would allow him to rest a little and take some space and take some time to himself, because he's been grown as an expandable child throughout the years, and this is true to all our leaders. This is true to all our commanders. This is true to all our wars, okay? It's very easy for me, even though I went through things in my life and so on, and yes, but it's very easy for me, from my privileged position, to see things that I have a little more time and space for to see, and I take for this privilege and I speak up gracefully as I can, because it's important for the people that can have the privilege to speak up, because and it's with the people. Okay, if you open a book, if you open a this, if you open a that, and you know for what the art of war is to alchemize energy back to the soil or source, so that you have peace and dynamic balance. But when people are put to constant torture, it's interfering in art of war, and the Mars doesn't get to mature, and so we have for this excess bloodshed and excess torture. It is exactly malefic to the chart of the native. Okay, for example, and I said it for many wielders, I have deep respect for Rutte, for wielders. He lives in safety houses. The last thing he needs karmatically is to evacuate children and women from housing. It's putting him in a very complex karmic situation. This is by design. Okay, but he's been talking about these things since 1996, 1997. And mentioning Brussels. So you have to admire the daredevil within these people, that they still give us the sign that if you listen to them, you can expose what the things that they cannot talk to you about, like Marc Letois, like the expandable children, like the fact that they had to be abusers as children and they also abused, tortured, and all these things, okay? And I try to balance to talk about this issue so that you understand what is going on, and to balance between this and to take the voice of survivors, which is also by design the situation, because if I talk about this, it's basically triggering things that I have no desire to put somebody in situation, but these are decision makers that are doing World War right now. And some of them have tried to mitigate for the damages. So this is what I have to say. Okay, Sun in conjunct Jupiter. Okay, still with Dene Balgedi, strong protector, especially if you are a bit outcast. 6th house leader that serves humanity, simply put. Okay, but here with Saturn the 7th serves for certain partnership, partner enemy, but this partner enemy could be very graceful, very Frosionic. And with Moon on Andromeda, it's potential for reconciliation. Let's say if there is a person that I would want around World War, it would be such person, and we will hear things about Rutte right now, because right now he's going to be prominent. I haven't checked the news. Okay, I wake up at night and say, oh, do Rutte's chart. I say, okay, I'll get up in the morning, I'll do Rutte's chart. Okay, but and I know we're in front of eclipses, so I know that this is meaningful. The October eclipse, again, it doesn't have much in Libra, and his Venus is in his 7th, so again, triggering his 7th. And in Aries, okay, but it's triggering his Mars. Was going to be Lilith Ketu in his 2nd house. So spurging something, if he's been involved in anything to do with trafficking, extortion, okay, for something like that business-wise, if his money's been tied up to this, and I must tell you, the banking take these personas to do offshore business and to money launder. So I'm not saying he's God forbid involved with that, but I wouldn't be surprised if he is. Such things can come out. How he makes his profit, how he makes his money, if it's to do with rape, if it's to do with things like that, and with alliance or with partnership, surround drugs, toxicity, something like, if something like that existed, can come out right now, but doesn't necessarily mean that exists. I'm just saying, don't be surprised if such things comes up, and then tell you why these things are happening, so you get a proportion of it, because if you would call for to eliminate Rutte, you understand what they will put instead. Okay, so this is something to remember. His job is to dissolve NATO and to dissolve EU by becoming head, and then but this Neptune Saturn is dissolved for his partners, for structures in his partner. For example, I have ascendant between Chiron and Saturn. I was thinking, oh, this Rutte is like their Bibi Netanyahu. It's been 20 years in Netherlands, playing it left wing, but it's compliant with COVID, compliant with that. Look, I read the chart immediately. For this Neptune, what it does, dissolves my structure of thinking, Jupiter, around Rutte. Dissolve my fears around him, of my traditional beliefs or archaic beliefs that I have, or something like that, or simply because of distance, okay, walls, distance, boundaries, then I don't have access. Neptune dissolves. And here, wherever he's partnering up, there's going to be such dissolution. But look, it's prosionic. It's sweetening. So, yes. And this Neptune is not making hard aspect to his ascendant. So I'm not, his ascendant also not making hard aspect to my Neptune. So my Neptune is in 1 degree Capricorn, okay, it was making this beautiful trine. So I see if an I say to you is too good for his own kind, is too kind for his own good, then I say to you, I see clearly. It's not, he's not, yes, he has Neptune to my own Mars. So again, as Neptune to my own Mars, I see clearly his Mars. This can be very radical Mars, but not necessarily, for his worldview, it's not necessarily so. There can be dissonance between his action and his worldview. So it could be very kind, but actions not so. He had to be this way to survive for this situation. But yes, this is a Mars that would need remediation. Andromeda can provide for this remediation and reconciling. I work with Andromeda upon reading this, so in the context, okay? So Neptune, Mars, yes, that can mean a bit dissolution of boundaries, but this is it. It's not. It's not about I'm not seeing him well or this or that, but definitely like dissolution of boundaries or something like that. It's not a good aspect to have in synastry between people, but it's not. It's something that would make me not see him correctly or present him correctly. Okay, and it's also not opposing my son, opposing my this, opposing my that, like Wilder's chart. So this is accurate, yes, for representation. My own Uranus in his 4th house here. Let's take a look, Placidus. So this part of the presentation is basically to see in what ways I could be biased in presented upon the topic. Uranus in his 4th house. Yes, I see to my Mars. This means some past life together. For the Mars, maybe I was his soldier or something like that, or brother. So, and it's very interesting because right now he's head of NATO. So I give him, if there was something like this, he knows more than me because he has, for these visions, he's psychic. So yes, 4th house Uranus. I bring Uranus to 4th house. That can be the motherland. So, so me speaking about him in relation to the country that he leads, which is in his case the motherland, but Sagittarius, we know, is not Netherlands, nor is Cancer, where Jupiter is. It's more like United States, and it's more like a global world. Donald Trump has Uranus in his 10th house, and he needs to be, okay, this whole, for my years, this is 84, around, okay, I was born 84, but it's kind of like around between the 80s and towards the end of the 80s, this generation will have Uranus in its 4th house. And around the 2030 axis, all the people that have the Rahu Ketu with Gemini, especially Rahu Gemini, okay, I have Rahu in his 10th house. Donald Trump has Uranus in his 10th house. I don't know for what the relations, what this, what that, but again, he's the type to get the boot upstairs. And so for this Uranus, I predicted Uranus in Gemini is going to make him profit from civil wars. Okay, profit in terms of status, doesn't necessarily bring him peace of mind. Yes, but this is okay, exactly opposite ascendants, but not degree. Where's Ketu? Let's take a look at this again. Ketu 10 degrees, this means that Ketu is 10 degrees Scorpio. Saturn Ketu makes sense, it's karmic for me to speak about him. Yes, I have Saturn 2 degrees away from the Ketu. So karmic release of karma. It's burning some karma, and I guess it's kind of karmic release. And again, for me, karmic release of fears. Okay, for around such a person that complied with COVID, and who knows what he can do. And I tell you, this is World War. Okay, it's not who knows what he can. Yes, he can do with this Mars, but this thing is that he's trying to remediate, to bring it less, to make it less. Now this is an issue because the way we are treating ourselves. This is a good reading. This is a good reading. The way we are treating ourselves essentially become the way we are treating our partners. So if he's too good, if he's too kind for his own good, might be that some more boundaries need to be set, so that he's successful in that remediation. This is important. I believe that if he approaches Andromeda and Procyon with Deneb Algedi and Beta Per Se, this will take care of that because he has good boundaries with Deneb Algedi. Must have good boundaries. It's a keeper of things. It's keeper of boundaries. So is that? But when it comes to partnership, it triggers this Jupiter. He still has good boundaries. Yes, so sixth. And it's actually supportive. It's actually supportive. So yeah, I don't have any bad word to say here. It's like this person is very kind, but also has the boundaries to back it up. So I can be kind and up until here. Here I cannot be. And look what happened. Look at 7th October. Look at the war in Ukraine. Look at COVID. Look what happened for under his regime still. I don't know what to say, This is crazy. That's all I have to say. This is crazy. We think that, oh my God, let not Holocaust happen again, but we don't understand that these people are not even Holocaust survivors. They are still in the Holocaust and they try to mitigate it for the rest of the population. Some try to perpetuate this. Some are like, fuck it, let them suffer. But a lot of them actually try to mitigate it for the rest of the population. Towards his Pluto, is evolving towards a Pluto Pisces. Is evolving towards, for this between Venus and Chiron, wounded healer of toxicity involved with women. Wounded healer of exactly that polarity. I told you, when they shot Hiroshima and Nagasaki, okay, they were changing the coin. And they needed to do big world war because they did like Temamundi Genesis, building a new world. Temamundi is the chart of creation of the world and maybe universe in occult. You can use it for wonderful things. It's a birthing talisman. I work with Temamundi, but next time you will be only able to do this in 2047. Okay, for here is. This is the question where I don't know if I should say the name or not say the name. If you watch my channel, then you know where I got this talisman, but I don't want to put too much fire, because I know that the astro magician that did this, she's believing in magical pacifism. Okay, so she doesn't want to get political. So I don't know for what to say. Okay, if she wants me to say this, she can comment to me and say, no problem, I will say. But I don't want to bring too much fire to her page, so that clients will come in good energies with good intentions. And so for the Tema Mundi is chart of creation of universe, and basically the Hiroshima and Nagasaki war, these attempts to reset, create a new world, change the coin, change the currency, entire thing to reset. But what the secret societies try to do with this Ubermensch project, which is in his 8th house, which unfortunately is also a part of the trauma. Okay, the expandable children trying to create a superhuman, is what this Trudy Verstegen called this hermaphrodite. It's not that she called it, she talks about this. And this is they try to cancel gender polarity, for to make human that we control their fertility. Okay, unfortunately it was under this guise that women were given ability to control their birth, and not because they cared about women. Okay, this is a part of the washing that was done. But hermaphrodite is basically trying to control fertility, to have superhumans, and to dedicate them with whatever genetic we want them to be. Okay, if we want them to be soldiers, we want them to be performers, we want them to be slaves, and so on. And this programming was done on children. This is the Expandable Children Project. You see it, MK Ultra Gate. Yes, this is why you would have Operation Paperclip of United States hiring Nazis. Okay, so you understand there was no World War. So there was an image of World War, and it's something that played out. And then what happened after you drop an A-bomb? So they dropped Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They did a genesis. They did a human sacrifice to ensure they will have this wealth, new world order. But what happens if you saw Chernobyl, what happened after Chernobyl is basically you have lush forests, extinct species begin to grow again, and species that weren't procreating with sexual polarity begin to develop a sexual polarity. So they're doomed. But their stupidity still on the short range cost us a lot of torture. And so we try to mitigate for this torture, because when they try to end sexual polarity, what it creates? Sexual polarity. Uranus is involved with gender, and gender, atypical gender. When you try to control Uranus, you can set intention and you will receive the best results. When you try to control it, this is bad. And it's getting nuclear holocaust, because if we are, if humans allow for the children to be sacrificed, to make human sacrifice in front of war, what happened 7 October was a great example of country, a tribe that makes human sacrifice, so the sacrifice, the torture, this, so that they will win war. This is why this inside job, okay? Because the Taliban was the same. Okay? This is tribal society. It's just the cry, we colonialized, yes, you are colonialized because you cannibalized on people, and then they learned from you, and then they upgraded it. Okay? It's actually through balancing. If you learn Art of War, you learn that it is about a balancing of energies. And you need masculine, you need feminine, you need Mars, you need Venus. Why marriage not good before age 24, Ksenia Moore? Maturation of Venus. Otherwise, you marry like a child, then you have no criticism for your husband, or you hate him because he raped you since you were a child. So either you hate him tremendously, and then your boys would be born rejected at birth, which is horrendous trauma, or for what happened is that you think highly of your husband, you don't have good appraisal, then Venus matures, and you're like, well, I don't like this, I don't like that, actually, it's difficult for me to live with that. And your Venus does not mature, husband not correct for you. It's not good for you, it's not good for the husband. Okay, it's this Venus maturation. Women should not marry before Venus maturation. A Mars maturation, 28. Men should not go to war, like battle, before Mars maturation. But when is army service recruitment? 17, 18, so Mars is not mature yet. So you wouldn't know to tell for illegal order, not illegal order. And if God forbid you do, you end up in the hospital, shocked, electrocuted, raped, tortured, dead. Unless you somehow not speak. Then you are homeless. And they make you do for these things that you said you don't want to do. This is what Rutte now has to mitigate. All army service mandatory. Okay, so because they pick the people from the bloodline, it's not a lot of space for decision, and or you would be homeless. You would be annihilated from entire family wealth if you don't go to army. If you even had the chance to grow outside of expendable children. So if you ask when it's starting, it's all armies. It's not this army, that army, all armies. Anything more to say about this chart? Well, I love the bisextile with Neptune, Jupiter, and the Pluto-Uranus. It's very protective. Very likely this is what allowed him to survive the death camp and allows him to survive as leader. There's a beautiful kite shape here as well. The kite shape, again, the difficulty is the opposition. The kite shape between the 7th house, the 1st house, the 11th house, and the 3rd house. Very protective, very shielding, also very lucky. It means that whatever conflict he has the possibility to mitigate this. I am positively surprised by this chart. Yes, astrology cannot do for profiling because what? Because they do MK Ultra, because they turn them to child assassins, because they turn them to people that will have to be monster-like in their actions. Okay, so you cannot do profiling. That being said, if you ask me for what the nature of this person, he has good nature that is easy to remediate upon going towards, especially after 28, after Mars maturation, and not a Saturn return, but a Mars maturation, and after Pluto square, is Pluto also associated. This means he's past 40, he's after Pluto square, he's after Mars maturation. He knows to handle his Mars. Even with what he's been through, okay, the Mars never got for the chance to mature, but even with what he's been through, he still would not be able to go through this without using his Mars. It's just that he's using his Mars in the way you would if you were in a death camp. And you have to understand for this logic that these people think about the jail experiment, double, triple, quadruple for how terrible it is. This is where, not the way they grew up, not what the childhood, what the now, since birth. And you see, for all the affirmation that I'm getting in energy right now for this, then it's difference. It's difference also, unfortunately, as horrid as it sounds, with children that were abused outside the cult, then got into the cult, then through torture they could go out because they didn't sign with blood, or they're not within the cult, or not with the expandable children. And some expandable children, when they were to entertainment or to war, they were managing to get out. Okay. Not everybody had possibility, and they perfect. Okay, Anneke Lucas, that is Wilder's age. Okay, she's she was born around the 60s. Then she could get out, she could get healing, and still even her handler got her out of this. Not her handler got her out of this. Okay, for younger generation, they had to comprise for their own healing. Because if you go out, okay, but I did not know that when I go out of academia and went out of the, okay, that being the TA to whom I was TA, I had no idea for what it was. Okay, I was studying politics and governance because I was trying to get away from work. Okay, I had a lot of traumas at work. Because I didn't want to fuck people over, but simply put, okay? So, that is... Yes, and why politics? I thought international relations is closest to traveling, diplomacy, or something like that. Like, I had no idea for my life, okay? I'm not from these lineages, and so not in this life, at least, that I know of. And then what happened is that I would go to therapy. Therapists couldn't treat me. And then I went to therapists to say, okay, one person, he knows what energy, he knows what this, he knows what that. Yes, he also MK Ultra. And his job is to keep me there or assassin me, okay? And these people work with energy. So so you understand that when they want to get out, as you get out, no money, no this, everywhere. Now the Tates are now, okay, the horrid things what they did is beyond incomprehensible. Yes, but also 7th of October. And also taking away children and women from their houses, and they make a woman do it from the PVV. It's like a woman say, yes, no, this child is out, 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 no more asils, no more that. That was not the Song of Wilders. Wilders were talking about if they learn the language, they can stay. If they did, they can stay. It's a different conversation. What's going on? Rabobank. That's what's up. And we have to understand, what did Andrew Tate say? He said, but they can cancel your account. He couldn't say it in so many words, but if you would go out of the cult, if they would have no money, no ability to exchange money, no this, no that, or you go back, organized crime. So he did organized crime within the cult. They didn't get him for the trafficking, now they get him for the pedophilia. You know, for a person to be on hurting women in jail, not good. Hurting children, not good at all. Why is Tachi, Netherlands, Mokro Mafia, representing himself right now? Because he doesn't want Kantor that is involved with protecting crime against the women. Not that the Fries and Spanish would volunteer, okay, he murdered the father, but he doesn't want any Kantor, any advocate that is associated with defending pedophiles. Now, if you want to be advocate, you have to defend pedophiles. Yeah, I'll say that. You have to defend pedophiles. Otherwise, you go against your peers. And definitely against the Supreme Court judges. And so what do you do? So some children die, get murdered, get this, get that. You find bodies. What do you do with that? Well, if you can't silence that, then you put some drug dealer and say, well, this drug dealer, that was Hussein Baby Sin. And the case for the mink, he was a client of the mink. I begin to understand the visual now. Fraternity kiss. Anyway, so for WHO it's excellent. You take all the competitors, yet you put them in jail for the pedophilia. Okay, but think about the lawyers. Did cantors that have to defend for the pedophilias. Now you are a lawyer that stands for pedophilia. Okay, so Tachi, what he would do, he would represent himself. Okay, drug cartel lord, represent himself in court. To do it even better, he would need to declare conflict of interest with WHO and for the Supreme Court and go with Hansa Madma. Okay, but all to abolish expandable children. What do you do with the drugs? Depending on the drugs, but the drugs are used to drug the children for the torture, for the rape, for the snuff, and so on. And the man who looked into it is actually the Fries, the father. He looked into Peter Ort case. Okay, for when a Supreme Court judge was putting children, people for murder, but then not the murder of the child, and then was given a case to look at to say, you want to do misdaad verslaggever, you want to solve cold cases. It's not a problem. Here, you take 10 years old child named Peter, rape, murder, torture him, electrocute him, say, come on, solve this crime for us. And this Peter Ort, lived in Purmerend, the Purmerend murders, okay, was kidnapped with orange car, drove through JFK Street, and he was a big fan of JFK. It was after assassination back then. Would affect his life the way Yitzhak Rabin assassination affected mine, very likely. Then to Churchill Street. Who is Churchill today? Who's have picture of Churchill in his office? His prison office, because that's where they keep him. Because he talked about child exploitation in Islam. That's Manir Geert Wilders. That was in 82. Okay. But what do we remember? We remember Peter the Vries sitting with the frozen face, talking about, yes, Deming is a great guy. George Deming is a wonderful guy. Wonderful guy, George Deming. Beautiful. I know this person. What does he... Then who killed the Vries? Tachi or Deming? It's another question. That's the cult. That's the cult. You think this is Netherlands? No. Top human trafficking country is United States. Top surveillance country, United States. But you say stop surveillance because this is what we know from Rockefeller, from WikiLeaks. I say correct. It's all of them. So more than eclipses. So we have 2 eclipses. Those are definitely going to be prominent for entire world, more so than I thought. Okay, with this Mars ruling Rahu. I didn't think it's going to be so early on, and Rutte is going to be playing. You're going to be hearing a lot the name Mark Rutte, more so than before, more so than ever. Okay, just like you didn't hear a lot the name Geert Wilders after solar eclipses. Everybody knows who Geert Wilders is. And now it's the same with Mark Rutte. We are before eclipses. The solar eclipse, yes, to his 8th house, I don't know. But I don't think it's assassination or anything like that. I hope not. I cannot completely rule this out. And I cannot, but I have to admit, with this chart, I cannot completely rule out it's not trying to do JFK. Like, I really don't know. It's something that I have no idea what this man up to, but it's very fair to say his intentions are benevolent, which is not something I would be expecting, very honestly. And that does not necessarily mean for us that it's going to be, all, rainbows and waterfalls. It's we the people are needing to take the reign, but we need to take the reign in a way that is inclusive. We need to fix for what these things we did wrong as society since Inuit. Otherwise, nobody can, assist. Definitely this person that has the wisdom of growing into what they're trying to do for the world right now. But you have to, and if you are expecting a saint, and Uranus is midheaven, is going to expose for everything. So everything that comes out, okay? And right now when the UN wants to silence, X, then there's the lawsuit. There's also a problem because the 1996 Marc Dutroux is going to come up again, and we have pictures with Marc Dutroux and Mark Rutte. Okay, so this is it's not a secret. Okay, you can watch it in Mama versus Mafia, but it's something, and she was PFTA. Okay, and it's something that is there's another part in advance. Okay, so there's something that is going to bring a lot. Uranus is going to go on his midheaven. Uranus is going retrograde before it goes to 28 degrees. So this is still not the beginning of the story. So that means he has 2 eclipses and then he has Uranus on his midheaven. big events, all the rubbish is gone. You know, the more famous you are, the more you are in the light, and the more people get to know about you, and the more people get to see your story, of facets of your story. And it's rare that somebody gets the whole picture. Even a person on themselves doesn't get the whole picture sometimes until after they die, and even years after. So yes, if you think you're going to be portrayed of a picture of this saint, no. But if you think you can be, you know, if you buy into seeing him as complete devil, then you miss the spot. You miss the place where we can actually tend to expandable children. And if enough people asked to tend to that, this person might also have things to say that are worth listening to. Now, this whole thing happens with Nessus right around his Venus, his Chiron, okay? So I don't know where Nessus is exactly right now. And Nessus is asteroid to do with the abuser, but it's also asteroid to do with recovery from being abuser in Pisces. Okay, so this is where we tend to the abuser, and we have to have uncovering to do. Okay, with this one, it is, yes, not easy time. I can say personally that certain figures I covered here had this Nessus in prominent places in their charts, and I can say that I was exposed to things that were not easy to me, and yet, okay, if we don't even have a structure that allows for people to grow with love, then what are we expecting? Okay, the good ones are dead. So that is also something to keep in mind. We're going to hear the name Mark Rutte a lot in coming future. We're going to see all the things that go poof, you know, out of the closet. But it's also important to keep proportion and to keep in mind for the expandable children. This is why it's allowed for us to go into World War. And eventually, that what they're trying to create is council for sexual polarity. Nuclear holocaust is going to actually bring more sexual polarity. I talked about will and consent. I talked about, you know, just even light examples that I give to you for how a lot of these placements that are doom and gloom could mean something completely different when we tend to it. And that's for other videos. So yes, the name Mark Rutte is going to come up. Let's see if we have some news, because this is okay. Let's just see. We have news. Okay, so Party for Freedom and Democracy. So I have information about him, but I want to see news. So we have meeting February 2024. It's not much. NATO allies select Mark Rutte as next Secretary General. This is June 2024. Okay. NATO top job goes to Mark Rutte. Okay, so this is taking on NATO in June. Again, it's after. This was the eclipse, the March and April eclipses for 2024 for him. Yes, Pluto enters his 6th house, but it's also the house of his son. So again, it's going to be serving humanity on larger scales and going to go to extremes around this. So And in all that, we must remember everything that I said about him. Okay? First, NATO task, find the right-hand woman. I don't understand. Okay. For NATO, okay. So it's all this around his faces political challenges. Okay, let's see. This is from 1 month ago. But I tell you, we will hear his name a lot. The Secretary General, okay. So Mark Rutte was asked several times to do this, and I have to say, it's correct for him to do this. It's very good recruitment. It's the right Mars for it, and it's the right Jupiter for it. The hard aspect, yes, it's a lot of energy, but you have to exert a lot of energy when you're doing for this job at these times. This is the man that brought us a lot of what we see 7th October. I don't know if strategically, but he was prime minister that Bibi Netanyahu calls on 7th October before everything. So why? I don't know. I still give my t-shirt advice to wielders. You have to give something for the gossips, okay? But this is balancing act. Okay, I don't see much. It's just his appointment, meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu. Makes sense. What is the Teflon mark? What is Teflon mark? I have no idea. Teflon is something that doesn't, nothing sticks to him. It's like a fish, and he has this. He actually has this. Retrieve my own brain again. The stellium in Pisces, and Pisces like a fish. It's okay, so it's nothing sticks to it. It flows. So I guess that's why they call him Teflon. I didn't understand what kind of. Okay. What can I say? It's a great chart. It's a great recruitment. It is. If somebody would want doing this is the person. And we the people have to complete the reign, because if that's all that he can mitigate too, and he's competent. Okay. We really have to do we the people have to do with the people, but we must be inclusive. Otherwise, most of us indeed will not survive what these guys been through. And this is true. Okay, we must be inclusive. And I say, for me, I say what helped for 7th October. It's not easy at all. In spirit and in matter. Calling on for Andromeda, calling on for Beta Persei, calling on for Al-Qaeda, not Al-Qaeda, Al-Qaeda, the Great Bear, and the calling for Procyon. Okay. All of these fixed stars, royal fixed stars, are appropriate to call in those times. So to and to tend to abolishing expandable children. Okay, I was tending to missing people before that, more with Neptune work. I will be tending to it more, and I have techniques to learn about. I basically have to learn technique of horary astrology for missing people, and I have to perfect it to adjust to Neptune, because horary usually not done with Neptune. And I will have to develop an astrological technique myself and show it to you for how to locate missing people. And there are spiritual things that I'm being prepared for to deal with that. So that's something I've been tending to even before 7th October. And I knew 7th October, if I only tend to the people that kidnapped in my region or that known that they're kidnapped, it's not going to yield, because this is, okay, it's bigger, especially with Aries in Andromeda. And that eventually got me to learn about satanic ritual abuse and expendable children. And that's been useful and is explaining for the missing link. I believe I have now the content for the first episode for season 2 of Water Expands Upon Cooling. And the missing link is indeed the hermaphrodite, and I think Trudy Verstigan, Mama versus Mafia, for the theoretical embellishment, because this means that if they try to cancel sexual polarity, then they torture children, the this, the that, and so on, and breed them, and that. And those children that they manifest is basically mass death. And if you think that was easy, no, I was taken to where the point that I would manifest mass death. Okay, that's the journey I've been through. Okay? That's the journey I've been through. Okay, this is not, if you think water expands upon cold, oh, this nice episode, no, it's not. And then I understood. And then what happened when you drop the bombs, that the most humane way to do mass killing, because we manifest a way to end torture, to end rape, to end this, to end that. On large scale, because if it happens systematically, then you understand, yes, it's not one case, and then you live a life, which is still difficult. And so then you manifest mass death, and you think, what's the most humane? Okay, you have to have crowded cities where the bomb covers all of them. This is 2030. And what does this bomb create essentially? Sexual polarity. So if we are stupid, there are A-bombs to do the job for us. But if we understand for this, then we have means to begin to find point of interferences and abolish denuclearification. I believe in general we are heading towards denuclearification, we're heading towards golden ages, we're heading somewhere good. That being said, we're in the 300 years of the in-between. If we're stupid, it's gonna be with nuclear holocaust. If we're not stupid, we're not gonna need to rape and torture anybody. Then we're not gonna have an A-bomb. That's what it is. So, water expands upon cooling will be coming up. See you in the next chapter.